All right, what's up guys? It's Raul. We're back. It's day 14 of Vlogmas. We got another review video for you guys, as well as is it gonna make the bag? That's what I'm gonna start doing for all my review videos. So I'm gonna be doing the new S-Line MD5 out of the box. This thing, this white one at least, is pretty flat. I guess it has a very mild dome, but this one is pretty flat. There were a few other ones with a slight dome to it, but I like my mid-ranges flat. It pretty much has the same feel as the European Open MD5. I think this one is a little bit flatter. So if you like a domey mid, this one has a slight more dome, and there are some other ones with a little bit more dome. It has a little bit more give to it, being that S-Line plastic. So it has a little bit more give. You could kind of grip it a little bit tighter. But yeah, other than that, it's the same shape and the same feel as the European Open MD5. So if you liked how this one felt, you'll probably like how this one feels. But I'm just curious to see what the difference is in flight. I'm curious to see if this pushes a bit straighter, if it's like pretty much the same. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start off throwing the stock hyzer line and see how it flies. Oh, I'm also gonna be comparing it with my Birdie Ultra, because this is my slot for this right now. It's just a little bit more comfortable in the hand personally. So is it gonna have a fit in the bag? I think it would have to have a unique flight separate from this and my other mids in the bag to make it, because I'm pretty solid and set on my mids that I have right now, but you never know. So we're gonna start off with the S-Line, throw it out there and see how it flies. Oh, wow. That is very overstable. I thought it was gonna push a little straight. I released it on a bit of hyzer outright, but that got down very fast. I'm surprised. Let's see how this flies, because I don't remember it being that overstable. Yeah, I mean, I threw that on a pretty similar line, and it had a significant straight push compared to that S-Line one. So maybe that one's more overstable. We'll see. We're gonna have to get a few more throws with it to really be able to decide. But now let's see how it compares with the Ultra, because this is my most overstable mid right now. Yeah, there it is. So pretty similar line on all of them actually. The Ultra had a lot more straight push than the two MD5s. Keep in mind, I have thrown the Ultra a bit, so it's definitely worked into a point that I like and I know. That's definitely pushed a bit straighter than when it was brand new. When it was brand new, it was really overstable. It's still overstable, but not nearly as overstable as those S-Line, or that S-Line seemed to be, and even the European Open MD5. Those are both a bit more overstable, but the Ultra just feels a little bit better in the hand. But let's get a few more throws with those and just see if they're really as overstable as I made them seem like they were. All right, so we threw them all on hyzer. It was the S-Line MD5, that was the shortest. Then the European Open, that went a little bit further than that. And then the Ultra, that probably went 30, 40 feet further than the S-Line. I didn't really throw this much, so it's not really beat in. This thing's pretty much new. So yeah, let's see if this thing's really as beefy as I made it look, or if that was just a weak throw. I'm gonna try to throw them flat this time. Yeah, it came out flat. That thing didn't want to push straight at all. It went straight for a second just because I threw it flat, but then it started hyzering right away. That thing is a straight meat hook. Now let's try to get this thing on that same angle. See, for those people that like this, how it compares. Yeah, so I would say I put that on even a little bit less of a flat angle, so a little bit more hyzer out of the hand, and it pushed straighter than the S-Line. The S-Line out of the hand wanted to hook up right away, right as I threw it, whereas the European Open, even on a little bit of hyzer, pushed a little bit more straighter than the S-Line. So now let's throw the Ultra, see if it compares. Yeah, so the Ultra is just a completely different disc. That thing on a flat line wants to push straight for a while. I'd say that one's close to 300 feet, whereas the S-Line and the European Open were probably like 260 to 270, 280. The S-Line maybe a little shorter, maybe around 260. But the S-Line is just an absolute beefcake, and I did not expect that. And it might fit in the bag for certain courses just for that reason, because I don't have a mid-range that's super overstable like that. I have my Zone, then I have my MD4 and my Ultra, which are pretty similar. The MD4 is a little bit straighter even. So my most overstable is my Ultra, and you saw how much straighter that thing pushed compared to the S-Line. So now I'm just gonna throw on a little bit Anheuser and see how they all fight out of that, and see how long they want to hold that turning line. All right, so thrown on the flat line, the S-Line and the Metal Flake European Open pretty much went the same exact distance, even though I threw the S-Line a little bit flatter. So I think this thing is a little bit more overstable because I naturally just wanted to rip over on it more to get it to go straight, or see if I could get it to go straight. Whereas this one I did release with a little bit more hyzer, but they're pretty close to each other. I think the S-Line is just a bit more overstable right now. And then the Ultra just pushed quite a bit straighter. I guess this could be a slot that I didn't even really know that I needed, because this thing is pushing straight right now, and there might be some shots where you want that overstable mid, but at the same time this thing might go just as far as the Zone, and I throw the Zone backhand right now, so I might not even ever need it. But we're gonna throw it on some Anheuser lines, see how they compare. Here's the S-Line. All right, here's the S-Line. God, that thing's so overstable. So I ripped that on a low turning line. It fought for about a third of the flight, and then fought right out, came back left, and skipped hard left. So it could be good for those shots, where the Ultra, if I flex over, it's not gonna fight out till like really the end of its flight, and it's not gonna get that big of a skip left. Or if I'm thrown into a headwind, for example, it might hold straight for a long time, whereas this thing will for sure get left. So if I'm playing windy rounds, maybe I'll put it in the bag, or if I'm playing a course where I feel like I need a more overstable mid-range, maybe I'll toss it in the bag. Now let's try the European Open. Yeah, so I could see they went close to the same distance, but the European Open, I ripped a little bit higher and probably a little bit less angle, and it went straight for a lot longer in the flight and then faded out at the end, but landed in a tighter line of where I threw it, whereas the S-Line went more right and then skipped hard left. This European Open one just kind of held a tighter line, and when it landed, it almost landed straight. It got a little bit of left diagonal skip, but it wasn't skipping left like the S-Line. So now we'll try the Ultra. Yeah, so that was exactly my point. If I rip the Ultra over, that was pretty much the same line as the European Open one. It's just gonna hold its line for most of its flight, and then at the end, fade out because it is an overstable disc, and push straight and slightly left, but it's not going left hard like the S-Line. So that's kind of the big difference there. We'll throw them on a couple sidearms and see how they all react. All right, on the Anheisers, the Cupcake Ultra definitely went the furthest by like 40 feet. Then it was the European Open by like 20 feet over the S-Line. I didn't get distances, but I'd say this probably went like 310-ish. This probably went like 280-ish. And this probably like 270-ish. So yeah, this thing's definitely the most overstable, which I'm still surprised about. But we're gonna throw it on some sidearms, see if they hold the same value there. All right, that was a good throw with the Ultra. Just a slight hyzer angle, stayed on hyzer, didn't want to flip up at all, and faded out the whole time. So now the European Open. a little bit lower of a line, so that might be why it pushed a little bit straighter, but it pretty much had the same flight. It actually looks like it landed right by the Ultra. So now let's try this, see how overstable it is. You know, it actually pushed a little bit straighter than the other two. Maybe I ripped it a little bit flatter. I'd say they're probably still around the same distance. Honestly though, for all of them, they're all torque resistant. None of them wanted to flip up or like turn over at all. They all handled that torque. So I think they'd all be good for sidearms. They all feel relatively similar. So it's really just whatever you bag. I think they pretty much had a similar flight, whereas on the backhand, the S-Line definitely was more overstable. Maybe that's because I'm more torque. I have more of a torquey throw when I'm sidearming rather than my backhand is more spinny. So with the clean spin, the S-Line gets a faster fade. And with the torque, it kind of just pushes them straight a little bit in the beginning of the flight for all of them. So yeah, I think they're all pretty similar for the sidearm actually. All right guys, I'm gonna do one more shot with it. I'm gonna try like a power grip. I usually do a fan grip, so I'm gonna try like a power grip and hard hyzer and try to throw it hard, a little bit higher and wider on hyzer, like I'm throwing like a stock hyzer shot to an open basket, and just see how they compare in distances for those. I'll actually get the distance for this one. So, white MD5 first. Yeah, so just I thought threw it out right at the tree, nice and hard. It definitely came out with more spin because the power grip. I'm actually working on that right now, throwing my mids and putters on power grip. I usually do modified fan grip. That's how I was doing it before, but I threw it at that right tree. It actually pushed a little bit straighter than the other throws, probably just because I put a bit more spin on it, and it pushed to that tree and faded out hard and got a pretty good skip left. So it's definitely still super overstable, even with the power grip. We're gonna see how it compares with the European Open. I did throw that one a little bit lower, but it was pretty close, similar angle. And I pushed it out. It definitely flew straighter on the hyzer line and had a more gentle fade and skipped a little bit more forward, whereas the S-Line was skipping left harder and fading in a little bit harder with more speed. So I'd say that's the difference between those two. I think this one will go quite a bit more straight with this power grip. Yeah, so that one definitely went further. It pushed straighter significantly more than the other two. It held the hyzer line the whole time, but just pushed straighter for most of the flight and glided straight and left rather than wanting to get down to the ground and skip left faster. So that's kind of the difference there on the hyzer line. All right, so on the hyzer line, we had the S-Line that went left and short. Then we had the European Open that was a little bit more right where it landed and a little bit longer, not much, like 10 feet. So I think these two are pretty close. And then this was probably 30 feet further than these, even on the hyzer line, which usually the hyzer kind of eliminates or shrinks some of the distances, especially with overstable disc, because they all just want to get down to the ground. But yeah, final thoughts. This S-Line is a lot more overstable than I thought. I think it could be more useful than I thought, because I guess this Ultra isn't as overstable as I thought it was, just because compared to the other discs in my bag, it is overstable. I don't know that I'm necessarily gonna bag this for my everyday bag, but if I'm going to a new course, I might bag it just to have an extra or a really overstable mid-range, or if I'm playing on a golf course or something like that, or if it's windy, then I might bag it. But I don't think it's gonna be in my everyday bag, just because I don't typically need a mid-range that's that overstable. And if I do, I could typically get the zone there. Compared to the European Open, I'd say they're pretty similar. I think this one's a little bit straighter, maybe just because it has a few more throws on it, but I don't think so. I think this is more overstable than the European Open one ever was. So yeah, that's the review on it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.